And let's find our sitting bones, connecting us to whatever it is we're perched upon. Maybe that's your bolster, your chair, your mat, the floor. Close your eyes if you're comfortable, or have them half closed. And lengthen the spine just a little. Just a gentle invitation for your spine to be tall. And now we're really using our powers of observation. I invite you to imagine that you have been called upon as a researcher. And today you are researching your own breath, and you're observing it as a researcher would. You're taking notes internally. We're not actually writing anything down, but you're paying attention, experiencing and noticing the breath, and just seeing what comes up and trying to make mental note of whatever you notice without any judgment whatsoever, without any need to change anything. So as you're ready, just begin to be more intentional about breathing. Notice yourself breathing in. Notice yourself breathing out. Any way, any type of breathing. No rules here other than please observe. We're just breathing any way that works for you. That's all we're doing. And observing the breath. And here's a few clues for what to watch for. Does the breath feel like it's flowing? Or are there any obstacles or restrictions? Sometimes we have sinus issues or other things happening that might impede the breath. So you're just noticing if there's any barrier or obstacle to the flow of the breath today. And then once you've noted that, you might also observe where, if anywhere, do you feel your breath? So as you're breathing in, as you're breathing out, do you experience the sensation of breathing in any particular part of the body? Or maybe it's a sequence of parts. And as you pay attention to yourself breathing, also make note of if there are any parts of the body that are feeling particularly tight. And maybe it's related to the breath flow, but maybe not. Maybe it's some other part of the body that's tight. Just noticing areas of tightness, areas of loose or relaxationness. I'm going to give one more cue, and that is you're sitting well, you're sitting with good posture. When we sit with good posture, we often consciously or unconsciously engage the core, and we work on that in yoga. However, just for this breath exercise, I invite you to really soften the belly. So intentionally let go of any action, any muscle holding in the area of the low abdomen, the belly. Soften the belly and notice if that changes what you're noticing or observing with your breath. Good, and now take one big cleansing breath, whatever that means to you. And sigh it out all the way as you open your eyes again. Good, so just pause here for a moment and reflect on, was there anything that stood out for you? And I'm available after class if you want to share any of that. But just for now, just make a mental note for yourself. Anything that stood out from your observation of your own breath. Now, I invite us to move to lying down on the mat so that we can really start to open up all the areas that might be holding the low back tight. You've done lots of these poses with me before, so they should feel familiar. So I invite you to clear the space, move your water bottles out of the way so that you don't knock them over. Make a little room. And have your strap close by, so we'll use that as part of the poses that open the back. So invitation to get really comfortable, laying down on your mat, on the floor. Bring your shoulders low. And always, we're going to pause whenever we lay down just to get the feeling of the ground holding us up. Gravity is doing its work. We are anchored to this earth by gravity. Just take a moment to feel the support from underneath you. And maybe a breath if that feels good. So perhaps you've already noticed whether you got any tightness in any area of your back. But here's another moment. Just notice anything that you're aware of in the muscles of the back or in the spine, in some of the joints that are connected. And let's see if we can open some of that up. Our first one is to cross the ankle of one leg onto the thigh of the other. And we're not even going to go into the full pose yet. We're going to do this in slow stages. So all we've done is cross the ankle of one leg onto the thigh of the other, because the knees were bent. And I invite you to flex the foot that's crossed, right? So the foot that you can see, the one that's in the air, you're going to flex that foot. And you're going to use your hand to push your bent knee away from you. And just notice, are there any sensations that happen when you do just that? There might not be. You might be fairly flexible and this doesn't cause any opening, or there might be a lot of sensation with this. Just notice what it is for you as you breathe. And then we like to give two choices here. If you are working on opening up across the shoulders and the chest area, then I invite you to place your elbows at shoulder height with your hands at right angles from those elbows so that you've got that open cactus arm position. And you can now lift the foot that's still connected to the mat. That's the one that's lifting off the mat, bringing your knees and your hips towards you. Now, your other option, if you wanted to pull those legs closer, is that rather than having your arms in cactus, you could instead interlace your fingers around the back of the hamstring to pull the leg a little closer to the body and intensify the stretch. So you choose the one that's best for you, and let's hang out here for 3 breaths. We're really just wanting to open things up. So notice what you're feeling, what you're sensing, and invite a little longer exhalation so that we can activate the parasympathetic nervous system and relax more. Let's place the legs back down. Come back to our starting position, knees up, feet on the floor, hip width apart. And let's cross the other one. Other ankle crosses onto the thigh. This foot that's just crossed is now the one that's flexed. Now we're going to use the hand to push the knee away and notice if there are any sensations here. A couple of breaths. Is one side different than the other? That's always good to take note of. And then again, same arm choices, either cactus arms or fingers interlaced around. It's the hamstring with the foot on the floor. That's the hamstring we're reaching for to then pull the legs and hips closer to you. And 3 breaths. Is there anything you're able to release here? Great work. Bring the legs back to where you started. Excellent. Take your arms open. So from your shoulders on out and along the floor. We're going to now activate the core a little bit, a little squeeze of your core muscles so that you can bring your knees in towards your chest and then let them flop over to one side. Both legs to the same side. And again, we're wanting to invite a release here. So if your knees and your feet easily touch the floor and the floor can support you to let go, great. If it's not right for your body to go all the way down, then this is a great place to add a pillow or a bolster, essentially bringing the floor a little closer to you. So you can rest your legs on top of that pillow, bolster, folded up blanket, anything that you've got there, so that this becomes a more relaxed, releasing pose. Let's hold for 3 more breaths. We're attempting to keep the shoulders open. We're aiming both shoulder blades towards the floor. And just noticing if that's possible for you or maybe not possible today. Just take note. Contract your core so that you can bring those knees back to center. And then same thing on the other side. If you need to move your bolster or blankets over, go ahead. And let's open those arms and flop the knees over to the other side. Knees and feet resting right down on the floor or some kind of surface, blanket or bolster. And we're breathing and releasing. Where are you feeling sensation? And does it change at all as you hold and breathe here? Contract your core Bring your knees back to center, and you can set the feet back down again onto the floor. Now is the time to grab onto the strap or whatever you're using that works like a strap. And let's place the strap around the bottom of one foot and send that flex foot up towards the sky. So the flex foot, bottom of the foot is facing the ceiling. We're attempting to straighten the leg, but where you're able to straighten your leg, it's going to be different for each of us. So maybe you're really flexible and you're able to straighten your leg and bring your toes over your nose. I'm not that flexible, but after doing yoga for a long time, I'm usually able to straighten my leg so that it roughly is aiming towards the ceiling. But if I'm really stiff in my legs, which definitely happens to me, sometimes I have to aim more towards the corner of the ceiling or the opposite wall instead of straight up. So you're looking for where can your leg be straight without shaking, if possible. See if you can figure out where that is. And we're trying to do 5 breaths in each of these positions, but we've definitely been here a couple of breaths already. So let's do 3 more. Keep the same leg in the same strap and hold on to the strap if you can with the same arm. So I've got my right leg up in the strap, so I'm holding it with my right hand and now opening up the leg towards the side. So because it's my right leg, I'm opening towards the right. If it's your left leg, you're opening towards the left. And I'm using my opposite arm as a counterweight or counterbalance. Extend it out the other side. So I'm not letting my foot touch the ground. I'm keeping it suspended. And again, you're looking for where can your leg be straight without shaking. But you know you can adjust the intensity by letting the foot be further away from your nose or closer to your nose. So find where's the right spot for you. And 3 more breaths. Inviting a release to take place. Keep the same leg in the same strap. We're going to now cross it over the body. So bring it back to ceiling pointed, and then keep it coming across to the other side. So for me, I've got my right leg in the strap, but it's aiming now across the body towards the left. And I'm changing hands. I'm going to hold the strap with the opposite hand so that I can open up the other arm now as my counterweight, counterbalance. And I find this one pretty intense. You might as well. So find, again, where's your spot? Where can you feel this? So you're inviting a release, but we're always aiming to work at our edge. It's not too easy, but it's not so hard that it's causing any pain. It's not making you scrunch up your face. It's not causing you to hold your breath. You want to be able to breathe through it. Good. Bring the leg back up And now we change legs. The other foot goes into the strap. Aiming the other leg now up towards the sky, flexing the foot. And figure out on this side, it might be different than your first side, but where on this side can your leg be straight without shaking? 5 breaths. If it starts to release, you can change the intensity too, midway through your breathing. You can make it harder or easier for yourself. Let's open this leg now. So whatever your leg you're using, you're opening that same direction. So for me, it's my left leg, so I'm opening towards the left. In my case, I'm running into the wall. You might be hitting walls or furniture, but that's not a bad thing because they can do the work instead of your arm working to hold up the leg. The furniture or the wall can do that, which sometimes allows even more opening to take place. So the opposite arm is your counterweight, counterbalance, 5 breaths. Inviting release. Bring that leg up to center and then cross it over the body. You might have to move the other leg out of the way and change hands. So it's the other hand holding the strap. The now freed up hand can lengthen and act as that counterweight, counterbalance. You're looking for your edge. It's easy for me to find my edge on this particular pose. And 5 breaths. What can you release? Beautifully done. Bring it back to center. Remove the strap. And then do anything your body's calling for here. I like to stretch right out, stretch my legs out, stretch my arms out. Follow your body's lead. What stretching feels good? And then bring your feet back so that your knees are up and your feet are flat on the floor. And we might want some grip from our feet for bridge. So I'm going to take my socks off. So this is the 4th pose that we've done in this low back sequence, right? We started with the figure 4. We moved to the knee drops. Then we used the strap for stretching in 3 variations. And now we're doing bridge pose as our 4th pose in the set. We've got our feet parallel, our knees parallel to each other, hip width apart. So everything hip width. We're spreading the toes wide and seeing if we can press the toes into the mat, especially the big toes. Pressing the big toes activates this inner line, inner thigh line, all the way up to the core. Now we're squeezing the core. So internally, squeeze your kegels, squeeze your low abdominals, squeeze your low back, and lift your tailbone off the ground. And see if you can keep the toes activated, the core squeezed as you lift one vertebra at a time off the floor into your bridge. Palms can be face down or face up if you prefer. We want the back of the neck to be nice and long, chin tucked in, because we're taking some weight there on the tops of the shoulders and the back of the neck. So we want good support from a long back of neck. Starting just by holding and breathing, and we're going to do a couple of these bridges. So this first one is kind of a check-in bridge. How's it feeling today? And then we're lowering slowly, one vertebra at a time. Slowly brings you down. Good. And then again, you can relax in between your bridge poses. Maybe it feels good to do a little windshield wiper where you just send the knees one way and then the other, keeping them moving to release them. And then come back, let's do another bridge. So positioning again, feet hip width apart, knees hip width apart, activating the core, lifting the tailbone. And then keep on going, one vertebra at a time, lifts yourself up into bridge. And this time we'll add some variation. We've got both hips high. We're going to drop one hip by 1 inch and then use the strong back muscles to return that hip to full height. Drop the other hip 1 inch, return to full height. And just go back and forth that way. Breathe any way you need to. I know this is work. We're asking a lot of your body in this pose. It's one of those full body experience yoga poses. It's so great in so many ways, and it's a challenge. Good. Let's now come down one vertebra at a time, slowly. Once you're down, again, you choose what feels good to release. Take the tension out of that work. Do anything that your body is calling for. We'll do one more bridge, then we'll turn onto our bellies in a moment. So good alignment again, feet, knees, big toes pushed into the floor. Activated core, start to lift into your bridge. Excellent. We've worked with the glutes as part of our bridge pose before. We're going to do that again here. So the idea is, from your high bridge position, we're now going to release the muscles that are holding tight in your bum and allow the hips and glutes to just hover off the ground. So we've lowered them down. They're now hovering off the floor, maybe 1 inch. Then we're going to squeeze the glute muscles and send the hips straight back up. Relax the glutes. Allow them to settle towards the ground until they're hovering. Activate the glutes and send them back up. So go back and forth like that. Find a way to breathe through it, any way that works for you. There aren't that many yoga poses that are helpful in strengthening the glute muscles, and yet we really need them for good low back health and other things. So this is an excellent time. Last time. Find your way to top bridge, having both hips up. And now, very slowly, one vertebra at a time brings you down. Breathe to slow it down. Oh, you did so well. Lengthen your legs. Lengthen your arms above your head. And I invite you to do opposites. So reach your right toes away from you and your left fingers away from you. So your fingers are reaching up, toes are reaching towards the opposite wall. You're making yourself long. And then the other way, the left toes point towards the wall. The right fingers stretch the opposite way. Beautiful. And before we turn over, hug your knees into your chest and just rock a little bit side to side, giving your low back that nice gentle massage that comes from below. Excellent. Turn over. Lay on your stomach. And your first job is just to let everything go, to really release here, soften your belly, rock out your hips. Find a way to lay so that the ground is holding you up and you can really give away your weight to gravity. Couple of breaths just to lay still. And then place the hands underneath, one hand under each shoulder, with the fingers spread to take a bit of weight, and rest your head so that the chin takes weight. So this is the one where we want the arms and hands to do all the work, a yogi push-up, and we want the back and the core to do zero work, to remain as soft and released as they are right now. And your job is to really pay attention. At what point does your back start to get grippy? And if the back starts to engage, that means you've gone up too high and you want to do a little less. So let's use the hands to push the chin off the ground. Start to push the chest off the ground. But really notice, is it the arms doing all the work? Are the hips and low back still soft? If they're soft, you can go higher. If they're engaging, then that means you are high enough and you get to start your descent. So we're moving really slowly, slowly up, slowly down. We're going to do this 6 times in a row. This is our second one. But always, it's really a small move. We're not moving up high. We're going slowly, using the strength of the arms, and not doing anything except releasing the back. So I'm on my third one now. Sometimes by the third one, you can go just slightly higher and still leave the back and hips released. I do have my elbows tucked in really close towards my sides. So the elbows are not on the ground. They're up in the air in order to make this move happen. But I've tucked them in like little close wings. And of course, we're breathing through this any way you can. Keeping the low back soft. And you'll know it's harder in the arms, right? We're really getting an arm strengthening by doing it slowly and by keeping it low. Once you've finished, touch your chin down, touch your forehead down to release the back of the neck. Relax your arms beside you and rest for one breath on each cheek. Rock your hips out. Excellent. Push yourself up to hands and knees. And let's get the hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. And we'll start to engage in cat-cow, just gently rounding the spine, gently arching, and mostly these early gentle ones, we're just noticing what are you feeling in your back at this point. Notice any places that feels tight. So those 5 poses that we just did for the sake of our low backs are ones that I recommend doing frequently, especially if you're someone like me that gets back trouble from time to time. And then, of course, you can add other ones. So if you know that your back responds really well to this one, to cat-cow, or to some other yoga pose, you could add things to your own sequence, make up your own set, and that could be your go-to yoga set of poses. So let's work with the breath now. Keep going with your cat-cow, but make sure that you're breathing in as you move one way and breathing out as you move the other way. Now see if you can lengthen the breath out just a little bit, the smallest amount longer than you have been doing. Do one more of these with particular focus on the middle back. And then come to flat back, neutral spine. And let's take a moment to pull the hips halfway back to heels and off to one side, exploring where does this feel good for you. Do you find any magic here? And if you find a spot that feels like it needs a release, hold there for a couple of breaths. And the other way, if you haven't yet, other side, looking for where is that spot for you. And a couple of breaths. Excellent. And back to hands and knees. If you're someone who needs to have a little bit of wrist opening like I am, this is a good opportunity to now curl your toes, sit back a little bit, hips toward heels, and turn your hands so that your fingers point towards your knees. Good. So we've got the palms flat on the floor, fingers flat on the floor, but the fingers are pointed towards your knees, and we're sitting back, hips toward heels, and you can adjust how much. So again, you're working with your own body. How much intensity is good here? Sit back less or more, depending on what you need, and 3 more breaths. Lower the shoulders, bring a little release there. Keep the neck gentle. And then we'll flip those hands over onto the back of the hands now. Fingers are still pointed towards your knees. And we're not putting too much weight here. We're being a little gentler in how much we press. Noticing any sensations. And 3 breaths. Good. Excellent work. Come to a squatting position from here. So maybe balance is challenging and you want to have your fingers down, anchoring you to the floor, fingers touching the mat as you squat. Maybe you've got good balance and you're finding an eye focus straight ahead of you and you're able to bring your hands to your heart. Hold a couple of breaths here. Relax the shoulders, ease to the neck, soften the face. You want to be able to breathe, even though this might be a challenge. And then using the strength in our legs, we're moving from the squatting position to standing. Great. We'll go into a couple of standing poses here. I'm going to invite you to follow me through the opening part of sun salutation. So that'll be the part where we're standing tall, engaging a gentle back bend, and then going into a forward release. And we'll just cycle through those poses a couple times in a row. So the first one we're going to do really slowly together, so we all are really comfortable with it, and then we'll speed it up for the next couple of rounds. So I invite you to focus on your feet that are hip width apart, spread your toes, lay all your toes on the floor so that you can feel your toes grounding you. Once you get the feet in position, we're bending the knees gently and getting nice and tall through the spine, all the way up through the crown of the head. Let's do a couple of shoulder rolls. One direction and then the other. All the way around and letting the shoulder blades drop down the back. So we've lifted the sternum. We're standing tall in mountain pose. Take a breath here. Breathe again, now with hands together at your heart. Breath in, maybe even reaching your diaphragm, if that makes sense to you, feeling your belly as you breathe. And then seeing if you can slowly breathe it out. Good, and from here, breathe in as you reach the arms above you. Contract your core so that you can reach back a little bit, just smallest amount of back bend. We've got the strength of the core allowing us to make this move. And when we're ready to breathe out, we're going to take it down into a forward release. We can do that really slowly and with very bent knees. The more you bend your knees, the softer and easier this will be for your low back. So rounding yourself any way that works for you into forward release. Essentially, it's bringing your body into the shape of touching your toes. Some of us are able to touch our toes, some not. So it doesn't matter. You're just rounding through your spine, dangling towards the floor, any amount that works. And you're checking in, you're making sure that this feels okay. If this doesn't feel right for you and you're better off to just stay upright, that's totally fine. You can skip this part. Now we're going to hold at the shins and lengthen the back from the tailbone to the crown of the head, essentially creating a nice flat back. So the knees are not locked. There's a little bit of gentle bend in the knee, but we've straightened the legs enough that we can create that flatness from tailbone all the way to the crown of the head. And then we round it again, drop the head so that the crown of the head is aiming towards the floor. Get a nice rounded spine. And then contract your core as you round yourself slowly back up. When you're next ready to breathe in, open your arms up. And again, like we did before, contract your core so that you could gaze up into a gentle back bend. And then bring your hands to your heart as you breathe out, ending where we started. Good. So that is the first part of a sun salutation. And we start to get a little bit of, I do anyway, I get a little more openness and flexibility through my back when I cycle through that sequence of poses a couple times in a row. So you need to be honest with yourself. How was that? Did that feel good? Is there anything that didn't? Anything that you want to modify? And now let's do it 3 more times. And we'll go a little bit faster, or I will. You can decide if you're following along my speed or doing your own. So same as before, let's take hands towards heart. Ground your feet hip width apart. Stand really tall. And take a full breath in and out, just here. Contract your core and breathe in as you reach your arms up and into a gentle back bend. Bend your knees as you breathe out and fold yourself forward. Bringing your hands towards the floor, dangling from your hips. Breathe in as you bring your hands halfway up your shins and lengthen from your tailbone all the way to the crown of the head, creating that flat back reach. Breathe out as you round back down again. Breathe in as you start to round yourself up. Take whatever time you need. You can breathe in and then breathe out. Once you get to standing, contract your core and breathe into that back bend shape. Breathe out, bringing hands towards heart. And hold here, breathing in and out. Out all the way. When you're ready to breathe in, we're breathing into back bend. Breathe out, knees bent, forward fold. Breathe in, hands halfway up shins, lengthen your spine. Breathe out, forward fold. Take your time rounding back up. You might need to breathe in and out, depending on how much time you're taking. Once you've breathed out all your air, contract your core and breathe into the back bend. Breathe out, hands to heart. Got one more cycle. Breathe out all your air. And hold here again. Breath in and all the air out, hands at heart. Breathe into back bend. Knees bent. Breathe out, forward fold. Breathe in, hands halfway up shins. Lengthen your spine. Breathe out, forward fold. Whatever breath you need as you round yourself back to upright. So you've breathed out all the way and you're ready to breathe in. Contract your core, breathe into back bend. Breathe out, hands to heart. And one more breath here at heart. All the way out. Beautifully done. Let's grab a sip of water. We're going to get into the hips a little bit, starting with a gentle balance pose. I invite you to cross one leg over the other, keeping all toes and both feet on the floor. We're just balancing with this crossed amount. We're not going to lift a leg off. I invite you to find an eye focus. And whatever leg you cross, so I've crossed my legs so that my right knee is in front, my left knee is in back. Whatever knee is in front, hold up that same hand. So it's my right knee in front, so I've got my right hand held up. I'm now going to take that hand and tuck it into an imaginary back pocket on the opposite side behind me. And I'm going to tip whatever is the opposite way. So my right knee is in front, so I'm tipping towards the left, keeping my eyes focused and holding here for 3 breaths. Feeling the ground helping to support me. I've anchored all my toes, anchored the 4 corners of each foot. Up, shake out the arms and cross the other way. So for me now, it's my left knee that's in front. That means I'm taking my left hand and reaching behind and tucking it into an imaginary back pocket on the opposite side. And I'm tipping this opposite way. So because my left knee's in front, I'm tipping towards the right, finding the eye focus, grounding my feet to support me, and 3 breaths. Stand back tall and shake out the legs. Good. Let's take a big step forward now. Front knee bent, back leg mostly straight. All toes are pointed forward if that's possible for your body. If not, then you do what you need to with the back toes. Let's send the front arms forward, drop the shoulders down. And you're deciding how much bend to have in the knee, because that changes how much stretch you get in this back hip flexor. So feel where the right spot is for you, and 3 breaths. Knowing that our legs and our back are so connected, when we're able to do some stretching of our legs, often there's a good effect in the back. Let's take those arms up. Now, fingers pointed towards the sky, shoulders are still low. 3 more breaths. Take the hands and swoop them down until the hands come to touch the ground on the inside of the front foot. If this feels unattainable, you want to bring the floor closer to you, and you can do that by having your hands on a block or a bolster. You could do that by having a chair in front of you where you're just bringing the hands onto the chair instead of all the way down. So figure out what will work for your body today. And then really pay attention to your hips, your inner thighs, your groin area. What happens when you bend your knee a little more? Do you want to change the position of your legs at all? And let's settle into noticing the sensations over 3 breaths. Then curling the mat up so that you've got a double mat to bring your knee onto, or grabbing a cushion to set your knee upon, bringing that back knee down, making it comfortable, pointing the back toes, we're scooting the front toes forward a little bit, and inviting 3 more releasing breaths here. Noticing whatever parts of you are able to let go. We're going to ask for a bit of strength here now. So curl those back toes again so that you can lift the back knee off the ground and step the front foot to meet the back foot so that you end up in a plank pose. And that could be a full plank, or it could be a knees down plank, supported this way. Both are great. If you're feeling too much sensation in the wrists or the forearms, you might be on fist or all the way down on forearms as you hold here. So, as you know, core strengtheners are excellent injury prevention for low backs. So we gotta throw in a core strengthener. Breathe through it. Totally fine to do this, start in a full plank, but maybe move to knees down if it gets to be something that you need a little support with. Do it any way you can make it work. Now, the other thing we need to remember is which leg you had forward a moment ago. So we did the warrior set of poses with one leg forward. Can you remember which one it was? So that now we're stepping the other leg forward, finding some balance through our feet, asking for strength to be able to bring ourselves all the way upright. So now we're doing warrior on the other side. So it's the front knee bent, leg mostly straight. Like last time, you're playing with your bent knee. I'm playing with my balance, apparently. Seeing if you can find the stability and the openness for that back hip flexor. Reaching forward, dropping shoulders, 3 breaths. Lift arms, keep shoulders low, 3 more breaths. Now, if possible, we're taking those top hands down towards the floor or onto a block or onto a chair. So wherever you can bring them, hands on the inside of the front foot, checking in with the positioning, making any adjustments, and noticing the sensations here on this side for 3 breaths. Curl the mat so that you can bring the back knee down or find whatever cushioning you need for your back knee. Point the back toes, scoop the front toes forward. Again, make any adjustments. We're hoping that this pose will activate relaxation and release. So make sure it's comfortable, and 3 more breaths. Wonderful. Bring the top, your front knee back to meet the back knee, and settle yourself into pose of child. Any variation that works. So your knees can be close together or far apart. Your hands can be reaching above your head, or rest your head on your hands, or rest your hands by your feet. And once you've found your favorite pose of child, hold for 5 breaths. Round yourself back up. Wonderful. Grab a sip of water, and we're going to go towards Shavasana, but do one neck strengthener pose just before we're totally rested. To be ready though for Shavasana, please get all your warmer layers, your socks, your blanket close by. Any positioning that you need for Shavasana will work for this next strengthener pose as well. So we're moving to laying on our backs. We haven't done much with the neck today. And so if you're someone who needs a lot more neck opening, you might want to add those even after we've finished our practice together. But we will do this one, which is a front of the neck muscle strengthener. So lay down, fully outstretched. Bring your shoulder blades low, bring the back of the neck long. And I invite you to let out all your air. Take a breath in. And lift your head just 1 centimeter off the ground, but tilt your chin towards your chest and press your tongue onto the roof of your mouth. And we're going to hold here. Good. Relax. Bring the head back down. Let out all the air again. Take a big breath in. Lift the head a second time. We'll be doing 3 of these in total. So lift the head a little bit. Tilt the chin towards the chest. Look down and press your tongue onto the roof of your mouth and hold. You can continue to breathe, or you can hold your breath, whatever feels more supportive for this. Relax your head back down. Breathe the rest of the air out. Last time, big breath in. Lift the head 1 centimeter. Tilt your chin towards your chest. Look down and really press your tongue onto the roof of the mouth and hold. Release. Gently just adjust by moving the head to one side and then to the other. Checking in with how your head felt, how your neck felt through that. Strengthening those front of the neck muscles takes the strain off the back of the neck, which has to work so hard. So this is a great one to do if you are someone that struggles with neck soreness. Staying as you are, having any blankets or comfort for our beautiful Shavasana now. I'm going to sit just because I can read you my guided relaxation a little more effectively if I'm in a seated position, but you are welcome to stay lying down. So make any changes so that you can be as comfortable as possible. And I invite you to soften your belly. We often activate the core during yoga, inviting you to do the opposite. Release all those core muscles, including softening your belly. And bring your awareness to your breath. Don't change anything, just notice, as we did earlier. Be an observer of your own breathing. Are there any parts of the body that could relax a little further? Can you soften your face? Can you loosen your jaw? Release any tension around the shoulders. Even imagining those tiny intercostal muscles around the rib cage. What if all the muscles in the body were to relax just 5% more? I invite you to drop into sensing mode. Where in your body do you feel sensation? And if you notice a sensation, or maybe it feels like energy, or maybe even movement within your body, are you able to move toward those sensations, to spend a little attention on them? As your thoughts quiet down, and as you enter more fully into your sensations, you may notice a witnessing awareness beneath or inside your experience. Allow yourself to identify with this witness. The witness stands at the center of experience and is able to be with the experience, the sensation, or the feeling, but not overwhelmed by it. I invite you to coach yourself to allow waves of feeling to wash through you. There's no need to block anything. It's all safe. It will not overwhelm you. It will not hurt you or others. Stay with any washes of sensation or feeling. Stay with yourself. Notice your breathing. Notice if by relaxing, has the breath begun to flow into more parts of your body? Again, soften your belly and bring your attention to the area of the belly where the diaphragm is located. And without changing anything further, just notice, is there any sensation of the diaphragm being involved in the breath, of the belly gently moving up and down or in and out? One more witnessing breath, exactly as you are. And now take 3 deeper breaths, sighing breaths perhaps. Free to stretch as you breathe. Bring a little movement back into your experience. And I invite you to just turn onto your side and just rest on your side for a moment. That guided relaxation today comes from Stephen Cope's book, The Wisdom of Yoga. And he also provides one of the sutras from Patanjali's famous text that talks about how working with the breath prepares us for concentration, which takes us along the journey that Patanjali has crafted. So I'm going to read you the translation of this sutra just as you rest there on your side. As realization dawns, the distinction between breathing in and out falls away. Then the veil lifts from the mind's luminosity, and the mind is now fit for concentration. I invite you to push yourself up to sitting so that we can close the class together Alternately, if you are very comfortable or ready for more poses, you don't have to close the class with me. You can keep doing your own. If you are closing with me, I invite you to sit in whatever way feels supportive, to feel the ground underneath you, lengthen your spine, take the thumb of one hand into the palm of the other, and let's, with awareness, breathe in as you bring your arms up overhead, shoulders low, and breathe out fully. Second breath, just like that. Together, 2 breaths. Extend your hands up and either bring the hands behind or in front of the neck for 2 breaths. Full extension, breathing in. Slow hands to heart, breathing out. Last breath at the heart. Namaste.